This event is organized between the International Water Association, Young Water Professionals Switzerland chapter. My name is Shuyana Heredia Deva. I joined the chapter past June as a diversity advisor. And one of my goals in this role is to create spaces where we can have open, honest conversations about diversity and inclusion. And this roundtable is part of those efforts. Back in November, we asked our community on LinkedIn to vote for a topic to discuss today. And the selected topic was global terms, local norms, navigating culture at work. And why do we think this topic is important? Because most of us, we work in the water sector, far away from our homeland, or with international teams, or with international collaborations. And understanding cultural norms, communication styles, and expectations can make a real difference in how included people feel and how effective our teams are. So I'm hoping that today we can reflect in real experiences and think about how we can improve the working experience for everyone in global teams. I had the honor of bringing together 3 panelists in the water sector, each of them with different backgrounds and experiences. And I would like to thank also our partners in the Czech IVA chapter for helping us finding one of the panelists. And before introducing them, I would like to quick set a few expectations for this session. The first is this is a conversation, it's not a debate. There are no right or wrong experiences. The views shared are personal reflections and not universal truth. And our focus is on learning and listening and not generalizing. I would like to remind to the audience also that at the end of the session, there will be 10 minutes for the questions, but you can already write your questions on the chat if you want. Okay, as I mentioned before, we have 3 panelists with us. We have Olga Muruyev, working as a research and development project manager at Inteva in Germany. Rebecca Wolf, current a scientific project manager in the VASH Learning Lab at IVAC in Switzerland. And Andrej Veniš, currently technical and commercial director at Veolia in Czech Republic. To enter into the discussion, I have prepared individual questions for our panelists. I would like to start with you, Olga. Your education and career has taken you to different places. You studied your bachelor's in Germany, your master's in water technology in the Netherlands, and then you moved to the UK for your PhD, and you worked there for several years, and now you went back to Germany. Looking back, what is one work norm or communication style that felt normal in one country, but required real adjustment in another?
Thanks, Gianna. Yeah, so one thing that required for me quite some adjustment, I would say, especially when I came to the UK, was when people greet you. It's kind of a simple thing, but when people greet you, they usually say "hi, you're right," which for me is like they want to know how I'm doing, but actually it's a hello in English, or for the UK speakers, for British people, or for emails, like the email culture is also like kind of each email starts with "I hope you're well," or "I hope this email finds you well," which in Germany we don't really use it like that. So some little things that can maybe start off misunderstandings, even if people expect that they've been asked for to respond or not to respond.
Yeah, I have the experience also. British people are really polite in emails, right? Like everything is thank you and a lot of
Yes, there's a lot of and also it's the politeness, and also that, for example, feedback is not that direct. You wouldn't be given it's a kind of, you're left behind. You still feel good after you get feedback, even if there was something, maybe you did something wrong. So usually it's you need to read between the lines a little bit more. I think in Germany it's more direct, or probably Netherlands, I think, will be very similar to that in that regards.
Yeah, thank you, Olga. And now, Rebecca, you did your bachelor's and your master's in sustainable international agriculture in Germany. And then you moved to Switzerland for your career, and now you are working in an international research environment focused on water sanitation and solid waste management. In the transition maybe between Germany and Switzerland, was there an unspoken cultural rule you had to learn the hard way, or something that surprised you in a positive way?
I quickly just wanted to say I totally agree to what Olga said with my background in Germany. And actually from the transition from Germany to Switzerland, there wasn't like much of surprises, I would say. Like because for me the biggest surprise was when I first went to like an African country and worked in Ghana, um, where I was really faced with the cultural norms, because I thought going to Ghana that I could like wear my natural hair, like my afro, because the infrastructure is quite well like to maintain the hair there. And then I came into the office, and in the first days like people were like, "Oh, nice hair," to me, and I was like, "Oh, okay." But then, like, I think on the third day, one of my colleagues, she just moved her braids, and she also didn't have the same hairstyle as me, like a natural afro. And her boss then was like, you can't come to work like this. You can't like wear your natural hair like this." And I was like, "Oh, but I'm also at work like this." And then I was really like, wow, okay, true. I mean, here like the cultural norms on like what you dress and what you wear at office are like totally different than what I'm used to in Germany. My friends would say it's nice to wear my natural hair in Germany, but in Ghana it wasn't at that point. So that was like really like, oh, I was surprised about that
Yeah.
cultural norm.
Wow, that's a very nice insight. Thank you, Rebecca. Andre, thank you for joining us to making time even while traveling. I have seen that you have like a rich background. You did several masters, one in the water quality and wastewater treatment, and also some in business, and followed by a PhD, and then like 20 years of experience in the water sector, with the last 70 years working for Veolia in Czech Republic. And I would like to ask, as a director of many years and with many years of experience, what have you learned about how different working styles or expectations show up in communication and collaboration? And how do you, as a leader, help teams work effectively despite those differences?
It's true that these things you don't learn very, often. There are some moments where you realize that the culture has an impact on the performance of the team or your ability to finish the projects. And these, moments, they come once per year, once per 2 years, where you really realize what happened and why it happened. And because we are here to share the experiences, one of the experiences that I have in my career is that when you work with the international team or across the functions where there are many people from different countries, and I work within the zone of Central and Eastern Europe, so we work with people from Hungary, Poland, and all different parts of the former Eastern Bloc. We need to understand the background of the people that we work with, because it was the same case like with the greeting in the UK. Some countries, the people tend to behave differently in the same situations where you expect certain behavior. And it happened to me that, when you write the notes, when you write the minutes from the meeting, you assign the objectives or the goals to each part, each member, then you expect that the people really read the minutes. And there are some cultures where this is not norm. It's norm in Germany, it's norm in Poland, in Czech Republic. But when you send these minutes to the people, for example, in Kosovo or in Georgia, it is not actually normal to read all the minutes and make notes. So you need to remind the people separately that this was agreed. You need to talk to the people. So you first takeaway from me working in such a rich environment with the different types of the people from different cultures was that you need to understand how the people perceive the objectives and verify individually with each member of the team that they understand it the same way like you understand it. And the second takeaway from this situation is that you need to spend with the people some free time. The best way how to get know the people is actually to go to pub, drink a beer, and just chat over the different parts of the life, and it will open up very quickly the back door to understand what these people think about, or your friends in the end think about the way how they tackle the workload, the way how they will react to your requests. And that's another takeaway. You need to know the people in person, and for that you need to know the language and to have the shared language at the first place. And that's exactly the return from the first question you had. If you are not able to understand local language, if you are not able to understand the local specifics, then you are lost, and it can have a negative impact in long term on the performance of yourself or your team.
Yeah, thank you, Andre. That's very good insight. And referring to the rules as well, one time I was in a workshop, and in this workshop, to understand this concept, they put us in different tables to play a card games, and they give us the rules. And then they will every time, like every 5 minutes, change us to a different table, and we were not allowed to talk to each other. And we were all surprised, like, this is not the game I was playing in the other table. And then you realize, like, if there is not a first seat to actually talk about the expectations and the rules and how this table is playing, then you arrive there and you don't know what you're doing, basically. So thank you. This is very good insights. And now I would like to move to the broader panel discussion. So I will start with a question, and maybe you can answer as you feel, or I can point at someone to answer. And the first question is, could you share a moment when you first realized that culture really mattered at work? It could be a misunderstanding, a surprise, or even a positive aha moment. Maybe Olga, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. Well, one thing maybe, so again, like small things that because it's not a big culture shock for me to go from Germany to the UK. It's still Western Europe. But maybe one thing that I found kind of amusing is when I started in Severn Trent, when I was working there in a water utility. In the office kitchen, they had a special tap just providing boiling water, because the tea culture there is so important that they have that special thing there to meet in the kitchen, and also always have like the tea break. For me, it wasn't that much of a thing. So that was kind of like, okay, it's different here, and they take it very seriously there.
Thank you, Olga. Does anyone has something similar, a similar experience?
I think, I mean, I can definitely agree with that. I mean, for me, when I, for example, came to Switzerland and realized that it's called the coffee break, but here it's called Snoonie. It's at 9. It's very important to connect to your colleagues during that coffee break. And yeah, kind of like lots of international colleagues sometimes would think, no, I don't have the time. I'm like really in the workflow now and I can't do this. But actually, when there, I always say, look, it's really important, like in our setting, because for our culture, this is like not just like informal exchange, but also some formal exchange where you can also exchange ideas. So if you miss this coffee break, it's actually crucial that you can't miss it. And yeah, but they're really like, yeah, you have to know the culture to understand that it's an important point.
And if I may add my own personal, sharing of the realization how important the culture is, it was the time when I fired the first member of my team. So it was about 27 years ago. And the case was following the incident that we had. One of the employees got sick, and I had to establish the reason why he got sick, because he was on sick leave. And he reported that he, in a car, in a company car, that he bumped his head against the front windscreen. And there were a couple of things that didn't ring bell. Actually, but there were some things that were not correct from the beginning. So I will not describe the chain of the incidents afterwards. However, what happened that I had to fire the people the guy that was in charge of this guy. because there was not the culture at the work at the time was that you don't tell the truth, you tell what the company is expected to hear from you. And I had to establish completely new environment where the people were approaching you and telling you the truth, and they were sort of expecting that even when they tell the truth, which was not, you know, something really nice, that the boss would not fire you because he had a trust that you are telling the right thing at the right time. So what happened actually, this guy, he was a shift leader, was covering for this guy because he was driving in a car with 4 more people, and there were only 3 seats in the car. So the 2 people were actually behind of the van, which was, you know, breaching every single, you know, rule that you have, not only driving this car, but also the company rules, etc. Once this happened, this, you know, this leave of this guy happened, and we had the meeting with the team. I shared with the team this, you know, information that anything is acceptable when we speak the truth at the workplace. So since then, I think that more people were approaching me or my subordinates and sharing the problems, the troubles that they had with health and safety in place, and also the things that related to the, you know, workplace. And this environment happened just because of that simple and single incident that, you know, opened eyes for a lot of people. So tell the truth is the basic part of the culture at the work. I'm not sure about, you know, if the same is valid for, you know, home. Sometimes when you come home late and you had a couple of drinks, you don't say you had, you know, you had a couple of drinks. You say I had only one. But when you are at work, you need to share the truth with your colleagues, and it's just a basic part of environment that needs to be established.
Yeah, thank you, Andre. This is important in the work, this trust, building this trust. And then talking about like the culture at work, when joining a new country or team, what did you find the hardest to adapt to in terms of local norms, either in the day-to-day work or social interaction? And what helped you integrate over time? Maybe Rebecca, you want to start?
I mean, it's always difficult to really get the information how this culture, this country works in their work ethic. So I think in my experience, for example, also like hierarchies or decision making or speaking up. I mean, because I went to school in Germany where it's normal to just openly tell your opinion and start discussions, but I also experienced in other countries that it's not like nice to see that in office settings, to just be like really open about your opinion in an open big meeting, for example. And there, of course, as Andre also said, it's nice if you have the chance to, in an informal way, already get to know the culture or the people more, maybe over beer or coffee or, I don't know, some outer work experiences. But lots of people don't have that, especially if you just started and you don't know anybody. So in my experience, I guess in the beginning, it's just good to more observe and try to feel the room and feel how people behave in certain situations before you like maybe step too far or you like do like a faux pas. And so yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Rebecca. Really like going with curiosity is a really good tip. I don't know, Olga, what's your experience on this?
Yeah, I think I would agree. You'd have to really be open also, maybe giving back like information about your own background, what your expectations are or where you're coming from. I think it helps quite a lot. I mean, my experience is really like I quite often have been in an international environment, just like I was not the only international person. So everybody was from a different, or most of the people were from different countries. So it's kind of accumulation of different backgrounds, and some people are really like a stereotype of their country. Some people are totally not a stereotype of the country. So that's sometimes interesting thing to get to know people like that. And I mean, I don't know myself, maybe I'm in some ways a very stereotypical, some ways no. But yeah, one thing I found maybe in the UK also was particularly interesting, that they are very much focused also on the whole health and safety regulations. So even in simple things. So in Germany also this is important, and especially if you're in a lab environment. But there they even were focusing on like how you walk down the stairs. They're giving you rules or guidelines that you have to hold the handrail. And for me, it was a bit like, okay, why? Like I'm a grown up, by now I should know how to do these simple things, or like not walk with a cup of tea in my hand in the corridor, or keep your bag on top of the table, not on the floor, so that nobody trips over. These like little things, which I thought it would be a very German, stereotypical German thing, because Germans like rules. But in the UK, this was quite impressive to me that they were very much focusing on that outside of the usual safety, like lab, or when you work with chemicals.
Yeah, thank you, Olga. Andre, what's your experience?
Well, this time I probably will not add anything, significant. It just I would repeat myself. You need to understand the people, and when they join, for example, the French company, the way that they, or not they, but the French structure, their relationship in a company is quite pyramidal. So it's like you expect the people to keep at the information at a certain level, and if you share the information at the levels that are not appropriate, it's very quickly noticed by the pyramidal people that respect the rules of the pyramid, and you become to have problems. So for me, this takeaway from the French way of management, it's completely different from the English. The English company you can share with anyone, on any subject. In fact, the information in some other cultures, this can be very. It's not well perceived. Let's say this way. So again, my takeaway from this one is that I encountered the problems when changing from the Anglo-Saxon to the French way of management in the company. So again, you need to understand the differences. that's probably the takeaway.
Yeah, thank you, Andre. I think, yes, like the curiosity when joining a new team is very important to understand. And then coming to like the teams and the diversity in teams, how does the experience differ when joining a team that is not very diverse compared to working in a highly international environment? In which settings did you feel more supported or even more challenged, and why? Maybe Andre, you want to start with this one?
Well, yeah, I think that I will touch a very sensitive issue here. Okay, it's let's not call it feminism, but let's call it the participation of women at the workplace. And when I, make an annual evaluation of my team, it's always quite funny to sit up in the room and just open up the final, grades that you have given to the employees, and also to include in that respect the diversity parameter. So what was the proportion of the men and women at the workplace that were awarded exceedance rate compared to the other employees? And what I found is that with women, I think that they definitely get better, let's say, marks or evaluation than the men in the end of the year. And one of the reasons is, from my own perspective and historical perspective, is that women don't tend to talk about the successes as much as the men. So I'm not here to recommend anything, but I think that sometimes you need to share the information or the successes more, because there's difference between men and women, and men usually, from my own perspective, of course, tend to talk about the success more than women. That's what I wanted to say. So in working environment, and this is not a culture thing, it's just a men and female thing, I think that this is something that as a boss, you need to recognize that there's a difference between the performance, the real performance, and the way that people talk about themselves. And this, if I measure it, I think that usually it happens to me that usually the performance of the women compared to the marks that they give to themselves is higher. That's probably the what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Andre. I think we, as females, we have seen that as well. And then, I don't know, Olga or Rebecca, would you like to share your opinion as well?
I mean, I would say, I think diversity in general, like when it comes to gender, but also to culture in general, to people, is really valuable in everybody's life and in our work culture. I mean, I had experience like in less diverse teams, but also in highly international teams. And I always felt like an outsider in less diverse teams, because I myself would always identify myself as diverse because my mom is from another country than my dad. And that's why in less diverse teams, I always found it hard to be able to speak up, but also be able to learn more about the culture that I'm in, because I was just afraid to be the only one that's not like the culture where I'm working in, for example. But then on the other side, in international teams, as Olga already mentioned, I mean, there's so many other cultures then also in these organizations where you're not the only person in that situation, that you're new in the country or that you don't know the culture or the rules here. And there, first of all, you have the exchange with the other internationals, for example, that are not from the country, where you can just exchange, oh yeah, I was in this situation, how would you have reacted? And then maybe you already started a conversation, and then you also come up together in that conversation with the person that actually is from the country, and you're just like, oh yeah, okay, you can teach us more how it actually would work. And I think that's really, really valuable in international teams. And yeah, you just have that environment more that it's created, that you're allowed to speak up and allowed to discuss about certain topics where you're just not sure about. And I think lots of international companies and teams and organizations, they really also put a value on making sure that when new people come from different countries, really have like the feeling they can arrive well in the new team and in the new culture.
I can also talk about a personal experience. While living in Germany, I joined an archery club because I practice archery, and everyone in the club was German. And I joined, and no one talked to me, and no one offered help, and nothing. And after half a year, I finally started talking to some people, and they told me that the rule is like you only get help when you ask for help, because they don't want to annoy anyone, and you should come to them and ask when you need something. And then I was all that time feeling so like left alone and be like, I'm the only outsider and they are not integrating me, when they actually were kind of trying to be respectful. So, and there was never the conversation to actually like, oh, what's happening? So yeah, I don't know, Olga, you want to share maybe your experience?
Yeah, that's quite an interesting point that you bring up there. That it's I totally understand it like that. I would usually also leave somebody, like, don't go to somebody if I think like I would annoy them. Like kind of respecting the personal boundaries is probably when you go like Western Northern Europe, that's where it's a norm, or whether you consider it normal. But then if you go maybe to India or somewhere, like the first thing they ask you is like some super personal questions, even if they don't know you. So it's yeah, quite interesting that I think I have been quite often, or very rarely been in a non-diverse environment. So maybe the only non-diverse environment would be maybe when I was kind of more in the science engineering area where there's less women. But generally, there's no two countries represented twice. I think it was usually I've never felt too excluded, but I guess, yeah, I'm also European and white, so it's easy to feel included in that from that perspective.
Yeah, thank you, Olga.
Yeah, I
And
completely still wanted to say something to the, I mean, also the environments that are non-diverse and they're trying to like maybe open up more diversity. Of course, like that first step is really hard. But I see more and more environments that really try that. But then they really have to encourage that, first of all, in the language, that the international people or one person doesn't feel like, oh yeah, I'm like excluded because I can't speak German, I can just speak English. You then really have to like integrate them. But I'm really seeing that like more and more really like more less diverse teams try to like also open up more. But I mean, it's way more difficult, of course.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is organization-wise, they have to be intentional about this. It doesn't happen just because. Then maybe now we can move to the next question. Can you share an example where cultural differences or hidden expectations affected communication or collaboration at work? How was it handled and what did you learn from it? You can start, Olga, maybe.
Yeah, this was actually it's a tricky one for me because I think in most cases the expectations were like transparently like we were talking about them kind of transparently. So I don't think I have a specific experience that I can share. Maybe once like I submitted like some work piece to my supervisor that was still at uni, and then he wanted to provide me feedback. And the feedback he said basically is like it needs some more work, and I knew that it actually like it basically what he meant between the lines was that it's really bad, but he didn't say it like that, just for politeness reasons. But for me, I think it would have been clearer if he just said like, okay, change this, this, this. So like clear instructions, and maybe that's something, the only example I could think of right now.
And how did you handle it in the long term, or how did you adapt to this?
I think most cases I would just really say like you can be really direct to me, and I in the UK for also I learned to like read between the lines at some point when you spend more time with those people that talk like in a kind of the polite way. Then yeah, you just learn to understand what it means. It's like some kind of different translation. If people are friendly, doesn't mean they're your friends. It's there's still some barrier between. In Germany, I think if you become friends with somebody, then they're really your friends, but it takes a long time until you get to that point. Probably, I don't know, Shiana, if you have experienced this, that just colleagues from work, they have their private life, they have their professional life, and that's quite separate. I think, yeah, that's here is a bit different.
When I was in Germany, I was in an international company, so my experience was with my archery club, and then it was very clear that we do their archery, and we talk about archery, and whatever else is outside those limits, because that's not what we're. So I understand that. Yeah, thank you. I don't know, Rebecca, maybe do you want to share?
Maybe more of the aspect of communication, like if you like have different cultural backgrounds. I think like one really thing that the people really underestimate is like that lots of also international environments, the people that meet in this environments, they of course mainly this language is English, but it's not their first language. And for example, I once had a member in my team, and he was from India, I think, but his first language was not English, but he could understand English pretty well, but just not how, like, for example, like the British person I would speak English of course really politely, but he would be like really really direct in like his vocabulary and his wording, and I would always feel like really like hit by all his statements because I like felt like offended, although he meant it generally really friendly, but it was because it wasn't his first language, it was really difficult for him to like express what he wanted to say. And I think then in a professional setting, it's like really hard for people to really come out with their opinions and their mindsets when they just don't have the first language English. Maybe just that's really difficult.
And then
Yes,
if I may add something at the end of this question, higher you get, less wind gets you information. It's quite hard to translate, but that's some saying. When you start in company or in environment and you share everything you know with your friends, etc., it's fine. You get a feedback, very quick feedback. But once you climb up the hierarchy, less feedback you get because the people start being a bit detached. They are scared that if they criticize you, that you could punish them or whatever. And my takeaway, for example, from this is that you need to get a feedback. You need to always keep some people in a team that are, as Rebecca said, straight with you. They tell you what they think. And if you don't have such a people in a team, you become very fragile because you don't have the feedback on the missteps that you make. And my own experience from very real situation, I was in charge of a company of roughly 1,600 employees, and there was a situation where I had to implement a new regulation inside the company, and when I decided to implement it, I did quite quickly, and there was no feedback from my senior management team. Everyone was like, okay, we would do it. And then within roughly 3-4 weeks, we started having serious problems in communication with our mother company, and this was because this was too rapid, and we did not have a first feedback on the first deployment plan on the management meeting. And this was because the people were scared of me and of maybe telling them that they are too slow or something. So it's always important to have the very fast feedback from your colleagues, team, whatever it is, your environment. So as Rebecca said, sometimes it's really good when you have someone who tells you the things as they are, with and because people tend to be very polite, this is not always the case, and you need to search for this feedback. And right now, my own experience with this is, from time to time, I ask an external company to run for me. We call it 360. So they ask for the feedback, not only your colleagues or superiors, but also the subordinates. So you get something like anonymous result of the opinions on yourself that are coming from all directions, not only from upwards, but also from sides and from the bottom. And this from time to time will help you to adjust the way how you behave, what you perceive, because what you see is not real. It's something that you need to capture somehow, and the feedback from day to day is nice, but you need to think about it from long-term perspective. And for this, I really like the 360 review. It's it's a method that works for me very well, and it helped me to avoid such mistakes that I already explained.
Thank you, Andre. And then you mentioned you choose some people that they will be honest with you, giving you feedback. Is this because these people have it in their personalities to be this clear and straightforward, or do you encourage certain people that you see the personalities, or like how do you manage to build this relation?
I think that you need to encourage them. Sometimes the people ask me how you can cope with some of the comments that you receive from your colleagues, and I always say it's always, when the critics comes, it's always good for improvement. Even when it's like a competition, when you have 3 or 4 competitors, where would we be if we have no competitors? And it's the same. It's the same with the criticism. You need to sustain the criticism, and the way how you handle the critics and their points is the way how the people perceive your mentality and your ability to cope in a difficult situations. It's not the thing that you can learn quickly to accept the criticism, but I think if you encourage it and encourage it by not returning the volley back, that's the way how you can improve in this skill. So encouragement, I think, encouragement of the criticism, even of yourself, not only of your projects or the things that you do or how you behave, but also the things that happened from day-to-day business in the workplace. But some people can give you the feedback, the criticism, and some people can't. And this is just natural. So you cannot expect that you will get criticism from everyone and actually at the open space. So I very much like the people that tend to not only criticize but challenge the things that I say, or I also like to challenge the things that some other people in the company say.
Yeah, thank you, Andre. Then this also brings us the organization, what organizations can do. From your perspective, what do you think organizations often underestimate when building teams that work across cultures? And what actually makes a bigger difference? I think one of the difference will be encouraging people to give feedback. And then what else will you say? Maybe Rebecca, you.
Oh, sorry.
No, Olga, it's okay. You can.
Yeah, I just wanted to say maybe it's important also that we are kind of transparent of what are the expectations, and also not to assume things that or not to assume that the new employees will know everything. So if you have an employee coming from a different country to you, maybe don't assume that they will know that we have a, I don't know, strict 8 to 5 or a 9 to 5 work culture, and after work you don't need to answer any emails or any calls because somebody might come from the US where they work, receive emails and take calls after work hours. They could know that they might assume that they have to work longer than, but in Europe, for example, we separate this quite clearly. So I think this kind of just to say that what is really the work, what are the expectations basically.
Yeah, thank you. Really clarifying the expectations has come also before, and it's also very important. Yeah. Do you have other experiences?
I mean, I still want to say, I think as a leader, you also just really have to, for each team member, or have to create the space to be different, but also to be able to like ask if you really misunderstand something, because like lots of international employees just don't have this, and then they feel like they don't have the space to actually be different. And for example, lots of international companies, I think they try to like have maybe also groups where they talk about culture, language, but also terminology, for example, which is very important when you like work in the international setting, because certain terminology you shouldn't use in international settings that you might maybe usually used to use in like a German setting. But just creating that space to openly discuss about these topics, maybe in small groups or seminars, is very important.
And if I can add something on top of it, usually when there is variety in a team, there is some newcomer in the team. It's really good as a leader or boss to help around these guys in the company to understand more. If you can't do it personally, if you can't do the mentoring or whatever it's called, this process in the company, it's good to assign someone to help the newcomer to integrate, to blend in, and to share the knowledge of the internal things, the processes, etc., and behavior culture. So as a leader, I think that it could help in general terms to when someone comes into the team to show the person in your team that is capable of helping him to integrate, because otherwise the newcomers can in long term leave just because they don't feel to belong. As a boss, you cannot handle all the demands, you always miss out something, and so what happens if I can't handle the newcomer? I try to talk to someone from my team to help around this guy or that guy with the integration. And I think this helps. There are some people that don't need it, but there are some people, more timid, more internal self-looking. They just, need that help. So that's my, recommendation.
Yes, thank you.
One
thing. Yeah, Rebecca.
I'd also say what Andre just said. I mean, I think everybody can actually benefit from this onboarding process, but then I would like to add that not just like on the workspace, but then also really like if you have like one peer that's really like helping you for the onboarding, also know that he or she will take you maybe out like to the culture and show you like the city and like really help you integrate not just at your workplace, but also because you arrived in a new culture, a new town, city, country. Really tell you, look, this is like a nice restaurant. We could go there together, or I could also just, if I don't have the time to go there together with you, of course, I can also just give you like some tips what you could do on the weekend to discover your new place and really arrive in the new setting, in the new country, in the new culture, and not just at the new office, but with a whole package around it.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. One thing that my previous company had, because it's a very international company, they had like a welcome package, and there was a description how to get your transportation ticket, which things do you need to do first, registration. But one thing that I really appreciated was like they really encouraged the one-to-ones in the first week, on the first days. So you had to meet all the team in your organigram, you had to have a one-to-one with them. So then you get to personally know them. They might also give you some tips about the culture. They might also set a bit of an expectations. You get attached on a different level. And I think that was really, really working for actually getting to know the company culture and in a smaller settings. And now is the time we can open for the questions from the audience. While we wait for people to write the questions in the chat, I can ask a question because our target audience is young water professionals. So my question will be like, for people joining an international team for the first time, what advice would you give to help them navigate cultural differences without feeling they have to change who they are?
I would first say really be curious and don't come with like prototypes or expectations. Even I or we do it is like thinking like, okay, if I now go to the French setting, oh, they have like the French mentality, but I mean, it's not the big picture, right? There's like everybody in that country is also very different, and every setup is different. Every team you could maybe meet in your work could be different. So just go into this setting really without any expectations, just curious and listen and observe and like, yeah.
Thank you, Rebecca. Olga, maybe?
I think actually I have nothing to add because Rebecca said it all already. Yeah, just be open. It might be worth, depending on what kind of culture change or country change it is. If it's something very different, like from one side of the world to the other, it might be worth checking up what is the local culture like where you're going to, just to be a little, so that you're not completely like going fall on the ground. But yeah, I think Rebecca said it all.
Actually, I have nothing to add. It's sort of, in order to blend in, you need to watch the telly, listen what the people say, be part of the activities, and that will help to integrate yourself in. And that's probably what I would recommend.
Yeah, thank you. We have one question in the chat. It says they are curious about what are the perspective shifts when you change from a group member to more leadership role in the context of diversity. Do you feel the perspectives change? Yes, we need to think about it.
So if the ladies let me to comment on this, of course they change. Indeed, they change, and they change due to the different work templates and the responsibilities that you have with the role. So of course the perspective changes, but you usually, or I didn't perceive it, I didn't feel it when you come up the ladder, you change from the position where you share everything to position where you have to think strategically and delegate, etc. So the perspective changes. But if I am not able to describe exactly how, because with the changes in your role and responsibilities, usually there is a gradual change in the organizational structure and also the way that you link to other people in the company and outside company. And it's a gradual, and I cannot comment because I don't see myself from outside how it changed completely, or if it really did change, or if it changed the perspective that I had. So of course it changes, but I cannot describe how. I'm sorry.
Do you think also your awareness changes when you have more people reporting to you or people from different cultures reporting to you?
That is true, but as I said, I tend not to make differences. So I do request the same type of work being done by individuals from different countries. I don't give a, I don't want to sound rude, but I don't give shit about what is the culture of someone when there is an objective to be achieved. At that time, when you have a team with you and you have a time to discuss the way how to tackle a certain theme or objective. Of course, when you have a time, you have the discussion, that's nice. But when you are setting up the project, usually I try to wipe out all the differences, because it is then the project becomes very complex. So I usually leave the objective clear, or try to be very clear in the object definition, and then the team somehow reacts. And so from the reaction, I can make tweaks and changes, but I don't give too much, I don't pay too much attention in the beginning to the cultural differences, to be honest.
Yeah, I guess when the expectations are clear, it is better for working. Yeah. I don't know, maybe Olga or Rebecca, do you have an opinion over this and the perspectives when the roles change?
Yeah, I'm not sure if, I'm not that much in a leadership position right now. That I'm not sure if I can answer to it very well. But yeah, I guess if you become more of a leader, then you have to also consider that people need to feel included. So you have more responsibility. If you're a team member, you're part of the group and you're looking like the leader, the leader is more responsible. So maybe the responsibility shifts a little bit, but still, I think in the workspace, we are all adults. So it's also partly your personality, I guess. As you know, you can have some people who are more extroverted, introverted. So you need to pay attention to those people as well. Like, doesn't matter where they're from, but maybe if somebody is super shy, you need to encourage them a little bit more to feel integrated and involved. But somebody who's extroverted might be from Sweden, so which is a super close culture, and might still integrate very well in your new team when they're coming in.
Yeah, thank you, Olga. I'm checking there is a new question in the chat. I will try to rephrase it a bit shortly. The question is regarding teams that are used to work on a certain way, maybe cultural, and then some newcomers come, and these differences of the team of adapting to the newcomers and to the new ways to do the things are not aligned. So what will be helpful for helping these teams to change or to adapt to the new ways of doing things?
I think it's quite a tricky question, I have to say. But probably, you need to talk in the team that, especially if the work doesn't get done, it's different than just assuming, I don't know, whether you go together on a lunch break or not. It's something, it's a different level then. And depends then who's the responsible in the team then. I think, needs to be talked about openly then.
I think, Olga, sometimes it's good to admit it's valid point that you just don't know. I can't answer this question because I'm not a psychologist. So I have no case to show and demonstrate that this worked or that didn't work in this time. So I'm sorry, I can't be of any help here.
Yeah. I don't know, Rebecca, if you would like to add something. We are almost closing the time.
Yeah, I mean, I would totally agree to what Olga said, and yeah, I mean, yeah. But it's a difficult question, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Natalia, for raising that question. I think, yeah, the only thing we can do is, on my opinion as well, is just to bring up the communication, have clear communication between teams, bring up the problems, be transparent, be direct. I think that's what we have been talking all the time during this conversation, that it's not about doing everything right or be right about everything or like be careful or not. It's just about approaching these circumstances or these differences with curiosity, humility, and willingness to learn from one another. So thank you very much for sharing this space with me, for sharing your experiences with us, with the community. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the discussion as much as I did. And I hope we can meet another time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shina.